Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, one of the fights I was looking forward to most on the Beterbiev Bivol 2 card was Israil Madrimov versus Vergil Ortiz. In fact, I got this fight completely wrong. I actually went with the upset. I was kind of feeling myself a little bit, but got it wrong. Vergil Ortiz defeats Israil Madrimov by a unanimous decision. Have to say, I don't really think this fight was close. Kind of like 8 rounds to 4 Vergil Ortiz, even 9 rounds to 3 I think is acceptable. For me, Vergil Ortiz was obviously he was the aggressor in this fight. We expected that, but for me he was also the ring general. He was dictating where this fight went for the most part. Early on in this fight, the movement of Madrimov was giving Ortiz a little trouble, and I felt Madrimov won a couple of 2 or 3 of the early rounds with his side-to-side movement. Ortiz was trying to walk him down behind a high guard, but he was kind of falling short with his punches. Got through with some jabs, but I felt that the pot-shotting of Madrimov was a little more effective early on. But it was nip and tuck early on. It was kind of awkward for Ortiz, but he remained composed, he remained calm, he remained patient, and I actually felt he showed good poise in there in the early rounds, despite, sometimes, I think if this happened to Vergil Ortiz a couple of years ago, I think he may have got frustrated, but we've seen him gather experience over the last couple of years, last 2, 3, 4 years, and I felt he dealt with that movement of Madrimov pretty well. He was making Madrimov work hard early on. Despite not really landing much, he was constantly pressuring, he was stepping to his side, and Madrimov was using a lot of lateral movement, a lot of feints that Ortiz didn't really bite on. It looked like to me that Madrimov was trying to draw the lead of Ortiz and get him to overcommit, then looking for a counter of his own. I think that's what Madrimov was trying to do early on, but it didn't work. Ortiz didn't bite. He stayed with Madrimov, maybe being down after 3 or 4 rounds. But after that, I really felt Vergil Ortiz completely took over this fight, outboxed and out-hustled Israil Madrimov. One thing I'll say as well, the early rounds were very close, but I want to say this about Vergil Ortiz, and it's weird because his face was marked up after this fight, but I just think Vergil Ortiz has that type of facial structure, that type of skin where it does mark up. But I actually don't think he got caught that much in this fight. I actually think Vergil's defense in this bout was very good. It's the best I've seen his guard. His concentration was spot on. He was taking so much on the gloves. I felt defensively he was really good in this fight. His defense got more lax as the fight went on, as he was getting more tired. That's understandable, but I felt defensively throughout a lot of this fight. Vergil Ortiz was actually very good with that guard. But yeah, after round 4, I felt Ortiz's jab, his double jab, was finding success. He also found a home for his left hook to the body as this fight played out. And every time, Ortiz had Madrimov stationary, Ortiz did a bit of work, whereas Madrimov kind of just covered up, and when he did throw back, it was only really one shot at a time. It was like he was trying to walk Ortiz onto like a big shot. That's what I think his game plan was. I don't think his game plan was to really outfight Ortiz or even outbox him. I think it was to kind of walk him into a big shot. And he did land some shots in the second half of this fight, Madrimov, as both guys were losing their shape a little bit more, but the shots really kind of bounced off Ortiz, whereas Ortiz's punches had more weight to them, they had more snap to them, and you could tell that the pressure was actually getting to Madrimov as this fight was playing out. And as this fight progressed, I felt Madrimov was holding a lot more. He was also using his forearm, using his shoulder to push Ortiz off, sometimes also leading with the head. He was struggling to deal with the pressure of Ortiz in this fight, and he resorted to fouling later on. He resorted to being negative and holding and whatnot, and he didn't want to fight fire with fire, really. There was a couple of moments where he would exchange with Ortiz and have a little bit of success, but usually Ortiz would have a better of those moments. But yeah, I felt that Madrimov was way too negative in this fight. I understand doing what he was doing early on, using the movement, trying to frustrate Ortiz. But when that didn't work, you didn't really see an adjustment from Madrimov. And as a result, like I said, Ortiz was able to outbox Madrimov with his jab. He worked to the body okay, landed some flurries here and there. And yeah, he just outmanned, outworked, and outboxed Madrimov as far as I'm concerned. And I think he showed some quality here, Ortiz, in terms of, like I said, composure, patience. He was sharp, technically astute, I would say. And he was the better man in there. It wasn't a great fight, it has to be said. I was expecting a much better fight. But I don't blame that on Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz tried to make this a fight. And at times there were some exciting moments, but yeah, Ortiz tried to make this a fight, and it did get better as the fight went on. But for me, this bout never really truly caught fire. It didn't really live up to expectations. In fact, the first sort of 5-6 rounds were pretty dull. And yeah, it was disappointing in terms of entertainment, but in terms of like game plan, adjustments, patience, composure, I felt Ortiz was good here. Again, you look at his face, it looks like he's got banged up, but I actually felt, again, defensively, he was pretty switched on here. More switched on than he usually is, which was good to see. But yeah, Ortiz becomes the interim WBO 154-pound champion. And we'll see what he does next. I mean, there's fights out there for him. Crawford, what's he going to do? I would like to see a Crawford fight. I would like to see Ortiz-Crawford. But it looks like Crawford has his eyes set on Canelo. So I doubt we get that fight, unfortunately. But I'd like to see Ortiz fight Murtazaliev. I'd like to see Ortiz fight Fundora. These are also good fights for him. So there's some interesting bouts there for Vergil Ortiz. I think Murtazaliev would be amazing, actually. I think that would be a great fight, a fire fight, because Murtazaliev is not going to do what Madrimov did. He's going to come for a scrap, so that would be great. Even a Bowershuk rematch, let's not forget. Like, some people felt Bowershuk beat Ortiz, and regardless of how you felt about that fight, it wasn't decisive. Even if you felt Vergil won, it wasn't decisive. That fight deserves a rematch, by the way. That fight does deserve a rematch. So Bowershuk, Ortiz too, I'd also be happy with it. But yeah, there's options there for Ortiz. I'd rather see Crawford, like I said, but I don't think that will happen. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Been your guy, Delboy. Peace.